It's only natural to be depressed. It's only normal to be nervous. It's only human to be unhappy in your life. I don't think so. Honestly, I don't. What I've been working on and thinking about and spending almost 14, 15 hours a day on, thinking and writing, is a whole concept of a new kind of approach to psychology, to mental health, to being creatively alive, being happy and healthy. There are different kinds of people in the world. Some of them seem to go through their life in what I call being neurotic or self-defeating and in pain and hurt and full of stress and tension. They have problems, just like all of us have problems. Then there are others who we think of as normal, who make it through their days and kind of cope and handle their life on a regular basis. They're not full of stress and tension, and they're really not operating at the very highest levels they could. And then there's another kind of person, of which there are just not enough in the world, and the kind of people that we need more of, I think. We begin to think about some of the massive problems that confront humanity. And that is what I am calling a no-limit person. A person who has no limits on his or her own capacities for living, for contributing, and making their life fully functioning as they possibly can. What I'd like to do tonight, a little bit later on, is share the difference between these three kinds of people and have you look yourself at the kinds of attitudes, behaviors, beliefs, morals, whatever it may be, and where you fit in on this continuum. I really believe where I separate myself from most of the people in the field of psychology is that I have a strong inner belief that anyone can reach the highest levels of their humanity if they make the kinds of choices that they all have the capacity for making. All of us can operate at these high, creative, no-limit levels. And many of the people who preceded me in the field of self-actualization and counseling and therapy have written from the perspective of, yes, there are a few chosen people, and those few chosen people are very special and they're very unique. I don't think it's true. I think it's there for all of us, and I think that's what separates it out. See, I think that as I was practicing as a counselor and therapist back in New York after leaving here in 1971, and having people come into my office looking for answers to the problems of their life, it always seemed to me as I sat there talking to them, whoever they were, whether they were attorneys, whether they were housewives, whether they were accountants, it didn't make any difference, or cab drivers, that the answers are just so basically simple. And I always am confused at why people want to make being healthy and happy and together and alive something that's complicated and difficult. The question that I think I'm asked over and over again, more often than anything else, is, come on, you make it sound so easy. Why do you make it sound so easy? It's not easy. A woman came up to me one time after I was talking and she said, all right, I've heard you now talk for an hour and a half and uplifted and all of this kind of thing. She said, tell the truth. Don't you ever get depressed? I said, no, of course not. She said, oh, that's depressing. I was just hoping you'd say you did get depressed. Now, what she didn't understand, and what so many people, when you see the popular psychologists talking on television, on the talk shows, and on the radio and so on, you'll hear them say things like, it's only natural to be depressed. It's only normal to be nervous. It's only human to be unhappy in your life. I don't think so. Honestly, I don't. I think it's only neurotic to be those things. And it's only because we've been taught to make certain kinds of choices that we really don't have to make. We've been taught to believe that we're supposed to be down, immobilized, depressed, given certain conditions of their life. On a television show this afternoon that I was taping for airing sometime in April, the host said, I know you're very positive and you're very up and so on, but everybody doesn't have what you have. Everybody doesn't have the breaks that you've had, doesn't have the intelligence that you have, doesn't have this and that. And there are guys that go out there and it's raining, and they go out there and they wait for a cab, and the cab doesn't come, and somebody goes by and puts slosh all over them, and you expect them to be up and positive at a time like this? I said, well, I think the difference between being neurotic or unhappy and being a no-limit person is not so much in terms of whether you have problems. Every human being on this planet has problems that they have to face every day of their life. We all have to wait for cabs when it's raining, and because everybody's looking for a cab at that time. We all have to deal with inflation. We all have to deal with getting older, with sicknesses, with diseases, with our children disappointing us, with our parents disappointing. We all have problems. But the fully functioning person is someone who has a different attitude toward their problems. But the no-limit person recognizes the potential for growth in every situation and doesn't approach the problem as if it should be something different. In other words, he doesn't go out into the rain and say, it shouldn't be raining. How come it's raining? It's not supposed to be raining. It's March. They promised me that it wouldn't rain in March. It's not fair. It didn't rain last March. And see, that's how neurotics talk all the time. I think the best definition was given by a man who said that if you go up to a neurotic and ask them, how much is 2 times 2? Okay? First, if you ask a fully functioning person, how much is 2 times 2? They'll say 4. But if you ask a neurotic, how much is 2 times 2? They're in touch. They understand it. They'll say 2 times 2 is 4, but I can't stand it. Why does it always have to be 4? So boring. God, it's 4 all the time. I get so tired of it being 4. Why can't it be 5 once in a while? What? See the difference? I mean, it isn't that people are out of touch so much. If you ask a psychotic how much is 2 times 2, they're liable to say 37, 19, whatever thought pops into their head. Those people have to be protected, okay? Well, here goes a no-limit person out there looking for a cab. He doesn't say things like, I know a cab isn't going to come. I just know it won't be here. And get himself all worked up and upset about that. Instead, he or she has a different attitude about it. They say, well, if I've got to wait an hour, I can do something with that hour. Out at the airport, you say, hour delay. Plane's going to be an hour delay. All in a row. Oh, God, this airline. This is the 4th time that's happened this month. They keep track of these things, so they know how upset to be. They write them down. Let's see, this is this airline. 5 times this month that they've been away. So they can be 5 times madder than they would be if they didn't remember how many times. And they go and they complain to the clerks. They go complain to the stewardesses, or they complain to the guys selling the tickets. Like they really care, whether or not your plane is going to be delayed an hour. It has nothing to do with them. They're paid to say whatever they say, and they say it. Whereas the fully functioning person will go off and get a book, they'll go meet new friends, they'll talk to someone, they'll watch planes come in and notice how interesting it is to see people coming in and meeting each other. They'll watch goodbye behavior, they'll watch hello behavior, they'll go out to the observation deck. They will do anything other than sit around and complain about the way the world is.
You have to take responsibility for everything that you are in your life and everything that you live internally, all right? Now, the word responsibility to me means responding with ability. It doesn't mean responding with disability, otherwise the word would be respondisability. It is responsibility. I have the ability to respond. I can respond with ability. You see, anything that you hate or are annoyed by or angry about is really your own hatred, your own annoyance, and your own anger. That's yours. You own it, all right? Nobody else owns that. Nobody else can put that into you. Nobody injects you with anger or annoyance. It's all something that you own. And what happens as you move along the path in a more enlightened way is that you tend to regard the people who behave towards you in ways that you used to call annoying. You begin to see that as their problem. You don't own it any longer. You don't take it on to you any longer. So now you're responding with ability towards the people who are behaving in ways that you don't like. I mean, I can give you an example of being on an airplane and a stewardess was very rude. and forgot who it was that was responsible for her being there, the customers, right? And she said something to me about where my bag was to go. And I said, I would like to put it over. And she said, and responded in a real huffy kind of way. You will put it, blah, 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 and got real angry, all right? And you could see it. Now, there was a time when I would have been angry back at her, and I would have responded with disability and used anger in response to anger, which just creates more anger, all right? But instead, at that moment, and I didn't even think about it, this is something that you evolve to, I knew instantly that this was her problem. And I said to her, boy, you must be really having a tough day. You've probably been flying all over the country right now. She said, oh, yeah, this is 2 days without sleep. I said, why don't you just relax? I'll get this thing put away. It became a solution-oriented way to dealing with it rather than a problem-oriented way. But more important, the reason that that person no longer became an annoying figure in my life is because I didn't own it. I understood that as hers. That's her stuff. She's got that. All right? It has nothing to do with me. And you have to always keep in mind that you're looking for solutions. You're not looking to be right. You're not looking to win. When you blame somebody else for being annoying in your life, what you're really saying is, if only you were more like me right now, then I wouldn't be so annoyed. And what you have to do is bypass that kind of thinking and say to yourself, you are who you are, and you're behaving in the only way that you know how to behave right now. That's all you know. So what I will do as a human being is I will respond to you with what I am, which is love, or which is kindness, or which is acceptance, or which is at least confidence in myself as a human being. And if I have that, then I can respond to other people's behavior, or I can ignore it, or I can walk past it, or I can deal with it effectively and never own it.
It has nothing to do with whether you have problems. It has to do with attitudes toward problems. I grew up right here in Detroit. I drove from the east side of Detroit to Wayne State University every day for 7 or 8 years, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. Now, at one time, I was a lunatic when it came to traffic jams and how I handled myself in traffic. The traffic would back up, and right away, I knew it would back up, you see, because every morning it did. But instead of using that time creatively, taking a tape recorder, maybe writing letters, doing some of my assignments from class, or whatever it may be, I used that time to be crazy, you see. Here it goes again. I knew it was going to happen. And you see people blowing up, and then they get down to the university, or they get home, and they blame the kid. In the meantime, the traffic just keeps getting backed up. See, what you learn when you become a fully functioning person is the traffic doesn't care. You have to really get that into your... Traffic doesn't care. Whether you're upset or not, it will be backed up until it no longer is. And that's it. That's all you can say about traffic. Now, if I get into a traffic jam, I've got so many alternatives other than to going crazy. Often I'll just get out my car and start introducing myself to the people on the freeway. It's a lot better than sitting there going crazy. Or I'll start writing, or I'll use my tape recorder to get some letters done, or the audio tapes themselves. There's so many of them. You can learn a foreign language, complete, beginning to end. Driving to Wayne State University back in 4 years without ever taking French. You can know all French or Spanish, whatever, by just getting a cassette program from beginning to end. You can do that if you want to. Or you can take the attitude that this shouldn't be happening. Then you go home and you yell at your kids and say, what the hell's wrong with Daddy today? Traffic got him. And then you can go home and have 3 martinis. Why is he drinking so much? That's the traffic. And why is Mommy and Daddy getting divorced? The traffic. It was the traffic that did it, you know. How come Daddy's got an ulcer? The traffic did that to Daddy, you know. Off to the funeral home. How come Daddy's in there already? He's only 43. The traffic killed your father, you know. It's entirely up to you. And it is that way for virtually every single thing in your life. If there's one thing to get for yourself tonight, it is that you are the sum total of the choices that you make in your life. You cannot control always what goes on outside of you. Not always. Most of the time you can. but not always. But you can always control what goes on in here.